Happy Friday, Miami. This is Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm also the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast. We do it every Friday at 4 p.m. Miami time. I'm going to turn over the baton to my co-host, no one else but Daniel Hernandez from Compass Real Estate. He does single family houses. He does condos. His office is over in Coconut Grove. Happy Friday, Daniel.
Happy Friday, Peter Zalewski. What's going on, man? You're looking good. You're looking dry. It's wet as hell outside there today.
I saw some videos from Biscayne Boulevard in greater downtown Miami, and people were getting flooded out, and it rained like an hour. I don't know
I don't
what this
understand
city's going to do.
if you're a commuter and you live in downtown, you need to know that even if there's like a 30-40% chance of rain, torrential downpours. We're in September. This is like the heart of hurricane season. Don't leave your Tesla on that corner that floods if it rains for more than half an hour. Like, fool me once, fool me twice sort of thing. Or trying the craziest one is if you're like in a little sedan and you see people trying to go through the puddles. Like if you go through slowly, you might be able to eke through. Peter, you don't know anything about that. You take the trains everywhere.
Take the train. Haven't had a car since 13. Although I will tell you, right around the old Checkers. Remember Checkers? About what was that? About 16th, 15th or so in Biscayne Boulevard.
It's
On
not there
one side you
anymore?
got Checkers.
Across from the
Nope.
Omni.
Yeah, across from the Omni, they shut it down. That's a notorious Death Valley, if you will, for cars every time it rains. Granted, Death Valley is a desert, but outside of
I know what you
Checkers
meant. I know what you meant.
is where everybody gets flooded out. That's where the tow truck drivers, the modern day pirates, that's where they make their money
The
every time it
modern
rains in
day
Miami.
pirates. The other perilous spot is on the corner right by Oko's new big condo building, 830 Brickell. There's a 7-Eleven there on the corner. And I
That's
don't
right.
know if it's like the pit of hell that comes out of that storm drain, but if it rains for any more than an hour, the whole block is flooded. And I have a buddy who lives on the corner unit over there in 1010 and 1010 Brickell. And we just kind of look, and it's like a peep show looking down at all the people trying to get in and out of the 7-Eleven. And the guy who owns the 7-Eleven has it down. He's got his sandbags stacked up as soon as it starts raining.
And that is the joy of living in South Florida with rising sea levels, allegedly.
Climate change is real. It's definitely real. I don't know. The global warming thing, they had to rebrand it because, there were so many talking points against global. Why? There's so much snow. But in any event, this is Buy, Sell, Hold. Our format is we pick 5 topics. We have about an hour with you guys. Sorry we're a little late. It's Miami time. It's summer, and we were getting wet outside. So we pick 5 topics. We got a full rundown for you today. We allocate about 7 to 7.5 minutes to each topic. If we go over, that's okay. We call that overtime. Now, at the end of each topic, Peter and I are either going to buy, sell, or hold. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but hey, we're adults and we can change our minds, right? And that's what this is all about. It's about civil discourse. We got to talk to each other, look each other in the virtual eye, if I may. So with that, let's jump right into it. Peter, by the way, is an avid data analyst. I mean, when you see an encyclopedia page tear out of data analyst, it should be Peter's big, bald, beautiful face. Now, today, the new jobs numbers from Bureau of Labor Statistics came out. I don't know who is running that department these days because there was a, firing. Yeah, firing, they got fired, she got fired. So the numbers came out. They were revealed earlier today. And Peter, what did they say?
Well, what they said is that the job growth is slowing. Understand there's 2 things at the Federal Reserve. This is the Central Bank of the United States. 2 things they're focused on. One is inflation, and 2 is jobs. Ultimately, nirvana for the Federal Reserve, which is led by Jerome Powell, Chairman Powell. He's the one that President Trump's been going after because he wants interest rates to be lowered. And just a little tidbit on that: every time you raise interest rates, housing activity slows. Every time you cut interest rates, housing activity goes up. We all know down here in South Florida and across the country, there's been a slowdown in housing transactions. Some people will argue it's because of high interest rates. So the Fed has maintained interest rates where they are, coming in ballpark somewhere in the vicinity of about 4.5%. Now, granted, mortgage rates are off of a treasury, 10-year treasury, but let's just focus on the Fed. 4.5%. They've been stuck there since December was the last rate cut. And President Trump wants lower rates. Why? Because he wants housing to take off. Housing represents about 10% of the GDP, but it punches above its weight. They say it's up to 30% of the overall economic activity in the United States. So Trump wants rates down, and the Fed's been focused on inflation, so they had to keep interest rates high. Now, suddenly, breaking out of nowhere, jobs are suddenly under pressure. Some people will say it's because of Liberation Day tariffs. And, we went from under 4% on average in the United States to over 17% on average tariff rate. And people are afraid to hire. Some layoffs that are occurring. Simply that people aren't being replaced. And we got the AI. So people were looking to see what was going on with the job numbers. And in August, the numbers were released at 8:30 in the morning. The Feds always release everything 8:30 in the morning before the stock market opens at 9:30 in the morning. Numbers were released in August a month ago, and by 3 o'clock that afternoon, President Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The position is currently vacant. There's somebody who's been named. Some people say he's a Trump loyalist to come in. So the latest numbers, the first set of numbers that come out since the firing, that infamous firing, suggests that job growth is coming in somewhere in the ballpark of about 22,000 or so. It was estimated, and Wall Street was hoping for somewhere in the vicinity of 75 to 80,000. So we are
so they missed the mark by 75%.
They missed the mark by 75%. Yeah, according to CNBC, payroll rose by 22,000 in August. The street was looking for it to come in somewhere in the vicinity of 75 to 80,000. As a result, the U.S. unemployment rate is now at 4.3%. So unemployment is ticking upward. At the same time, inflation, which Jerome Powell has been focused on since about 2022 or so, inflation is also on the rise. Back in February, it's coming in at 2.3%. Right now, it's coming in at 2.9%. There's going to be numbers that are coming out, I think, in the next week or so. If inflation's going up and unemployment's going up, the Fed has a problem because they have two responsibilities. One is inflation at or below 2%, and we're blowing that, and maximum employment, and that is also in jeopardy as well. So we have ourselves a little bit of a conundrum. But if you are a real estate person, you want lower interest rates because you think housing activity is going to take off regardless of whether or not people have a job.
That's interesting. So explain to the viewers, Peter, a few weeks ago, Jerome Powell went out to the Tetons. I love how you pronounce that, by the way, the Tetons. He went out to Jackson Hole.
It translates to, right?
I do not.
Yeah, a tit.
My mind's in the gutter. What do you want me to say? So Jerome Powell, Jerry Powell, old man Powell, as Peter would say, comes out to the Tetons, the tits, Jackson Hole. We'll call it Jackson Hole.
That's Jackson Hole.
And mine's in the gutter today. Jeez, it's all the rain. And he alludes to the possibility of multiple rate cuts by the end of the year. You can interpret it however you want, but we have 3 meetings, September, October, December. Why there isn't any one in November? They're busy celebrating Thanksgiving or whatnot. But if we get even 25 basis points, 50 basis points, 75 basis points in the next few months, we talked a little bit about what the repercussions for the housing market, consequences. We don't want to say consequences because it's not an ominous thing. It's a positive thing. If we lower interest rates, there's more activity in the housing market, and well, people can take lower interest loans. They can borrow money for cheaper. And what do they borrow money for? They borrow it to buy houses, real estate, condos, single family home. So
refinance,
sure. If you bought a house, if you had to buy a house in the last 3 years or so, and you were caught between that 6 to 7.5% interest rate, I think the general rule of thumb is that if you can refinance by a full point, it's oftentimes worth it. Is that the general thinking, Peter?
That's normally what people sort of kick around. Yeah,
but keep in mind, obviously, depending on how much what your PI situation looks like. If it's a relatively new loan and you're paying predominantly interest, then you're going to benefit more from refinancing. If you're in a relatively mature loan, you only got 5 or 6 years left on your loan, you're predominantly paying principal. The benefits might not outweigh the cost of you refinancing that loan, right?
Correct, because every time you refinance it, ballpark it at 1%. Let's say junk fees and processing fees, origination, all that type of stuff related to a refinance.
Hey,
So if
mortgage
it's a
brokers
million
have
dollar
families
loan,
too. They have to charge junk fees just like the guy selling me my car. I'm kidding. I have a 15-year-old car, and Peter doesn't have a car, so you're not finding any sympathy over here, new car buyers. So we're about up time on this first
well,
topic.
Daniel, if I could just mention, so the 16th and 17th of September, the FOMC, which is the Federal Open Markets Committee, that's the group
That's
that
when the
votes. They
governors meet.
Yep, they're going to vote. And coming in based on Old Man Powell's speech at Jackson Hole on roughly the 22nd of August, he said they're going to shift from being focused on eliminating inflation to suddenly trying to prop up the job market because they could see indicators the job market was going sideways. By the way, we lost about 78,000 manufacturing jobs since Liberation Day tariffs were put in place,
That doesn't
according to
make any sense. I thought that we're supposed to bring back manufacturing jobs.
And there is the argument. You're supposed to onshore manufacturing, and therefore you should have a growth. Some thought it would be 100,000 jobs added to manufacturing. Instead, we lost 78,000 according to CNBC. So as a result of this, and I know we're up against the clock, 25 basis points is what was anticipated for September. Remember, 16th and 17th of September is when they're going to meet, they're going to vote, and then the announcement's going to come. It is now skyrocketed to 50 basis point cut basically in 2 weeks from now, and then an additional 25 in October, an additional 25 in December. So we could be talking about 100 basis points or 1%, which would mean mortgages would go from a seven handle, 7%, potentially down to a six handle. And early on, as this talk was building up steam, some people were saying they could go as low as 5% within a year from now. So this is the question that everybody's sort of kicking around, and this is why Wall Street is starting to get a little bit anxious. They want lower interest rates, but at the same point, they want people to have jobs.
6.29% as of today. That's as low as I've seen this 30-year fix in probably year to date.
And that's what we're up against. So the question becomes, are people going to go in and buy because interest rates are low, even if they're uncertain about their job?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. Hey, I don't want to be a W-2. That's not why I do what I do. I would be terrified if my job security was on the line. But I guess our job security on the line is on the line every day with the way interest rates are.
You know what? One other tidbit I would throw out: we're finally seeing, according to the analysts, we're finally seeing the Doge cuts. Remember the Department of Government Efficiency? We're finally seeing them start to work their way through the system. So now it's starting to hit. So the expectations are going forward. The unemployment rate is likely to increase higher and higher going forward. At least that's what the analysts are saying.
Well, I mean, before we move on, I have my reservations about our fearless leader locally. That's Mr. Ron DeSantis, Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm sorry, but really, like, we need some Doge action down here in Miami-Dade County. $402 million deficit. Are you crazy? With all the property appreciation that we've had, it's absurd. It's absurd. But that's not what we're talking about today. We like to stay on topic here at Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. Big money. Oh, lest I forget. So, job numbers, are they realer, Peter?
I'm saying they're real, and I'm saying they're a buy, and I'm saying that people need to possibly reconsider their base case scenario going forward as we head into the busy winter season.
Peter's a buy. I am a hold, and I'll tell you why. Where are these numbers coming from? Who's accountable for these numbers right now, Peter? There's nobody in the job.
No
There's
one.
nobody in the hot seat. So
There was a former Fed official, former governor, who did an interview today, and that person said at this point he has no reason to doubt the numbers thus far because a permanent person hasn't replaced the former and the fired individual who got blown out a month ago, and therefore there probably wasn't any meddling as of yet. As of
I'm
yet.
not saying that there's meddling. I'm I know there are very smart people doing very difficult jobs in terms of our monetary and fiscal policy, right? You have our elected officials, you have our appointed folks. Um, I'd like to think most of them are pretty smart, right? And they're trying to do their best. They're mission driven, or at least they were back in the day. Um, but there's only so many levers for them to pull. And if the inflation lever didn't work and now they're trying it with the jobs, it's just there's a lot of experimenting going on, and I don't know. I'm holding. I'm holding. I'm not definitive about it.
So I think the way to frame this is, are you a person who does one task at a time, or are you a person who multitasks? I'm a one task at a time type of
Right,
person,
and I think
and
that
I'm terrible at
the
multitasking, and
I,
that's
I
what the
think
feds are doing now.
I think you have to be with your horse blinders on and commit to a strategy and see it through, because if you start playing hopscotch with the policies, it's too short term thinking. But hey, I'm a hold. You're a buy. Next up, big money, big compounds. And we're not talking about compound words. We're talking about like complexes, like where Mark Zuckerberg wants to live in Hawaii, or where he does have his big bunker in Hawaii, or where Eric Schmidt has amassed no less than 5 properties in the Sunset Islands area here in Miami, or Mr. Bezos, Jeff Bezos, who, congratulations, Mr. Bezos. I heard you recently got married in Venice, Italy. It's very nice. A lot of, it's just so cute. But in any event, he has, I think, three three properties on Indian Creek, which has been dubbed Billionaire's Bunker because you have to be a billionaire to own property there. I think he's got something like $200 million in acquired land there. And then our boy Ken Billions, the assemblage god of Miami. I'm coining it. The assemblage god of Miami, Ken Billions. He's got an assemblage in Brickell. He's got an assemblage down on Vizcaya, which technically is Brickell, and then he's got the assemblage on Star Island. He owns something like what 30-40% of Star Island. But you sent me an article, Peter, and it's about this trend, right? You got Zuck, you got Ken Billions, you got Jeff Bezos. These are just people that come out in the media, but this is also a development trend. There's that big company out there, Discovery Land International. They go all around the world and they build like these massive. I'm talking thousands and thousands of acre developments. They did Baker's Bay in the Bahamas. I think they're doing one in Costa Rica. They're the ones who put Yellowstone and all these Montana ranches for billionaires on the map. Nobody really gave a shit about Montana until, well, that TV show came out, and well, because Discovery Land International built out this giant development. Rich folks want land. They don't just want to live on the water. I'm sure if they want to live on the water, they can afford to live on the water. But what's what's mine? What in the world nowadays, since everybody's just on their phones, everybody's got one of these, right? Everybody's got the same apps. We're all kind of the same. But what differentiates you if you're a really rich guy and you got a plane, I got a plane, we got the same plane, but who's got the better property on the beach? Who's got the bigger property on the beach? Who's got more beachfront? How big of a boat can you fit in your backyard? You don't have to go to the marina. And this sort of amalgamation of trends in ultra wealthy real estate, we're seeing that all play out here in South Florida. So tell me a little bit about that article that you sent.
Yeah, so there is something called the Rob Report. Rob Report is related
Oh, it's a
to
fun magazine. It's like $10 at the airport.
exactly, but they really roll up the sleeves and they get in there. So they identified a trend. And as I start to tell you about this, and as I reference the article, I just want you to keep in mind that one of the issues we opened this show with was a little bit of rain and everything is getting flooded out. And I also wanted you to recognize that a lot of parts of the greater Miami and South Florida area are man made. Dredging from bays or river is put down and land is suddenly created. So that is the theme you should keep in mind as I sort of talk about this. But what the Rob Report is reporting, and let me go with the headline: forget a mansion. Miami's ultra wealthy are amassing luxury compounds with waterfront land scarce and demand soaring. Deep pocketed buyers are stitching together super compounds that are reshaping the city's ultra luxury real estate market. Story starts off by saying they say everything is bigger in Texas, but in Miami, just one mansion that's on an 8,000 square foot lot, that's just not enough. So for the city's wealthiest buyers, the play is now to scoop up surrounding properties, the house or vacant lot next door, and sometimes even the entire block. The result is a growing trend among UHNWIs, creating super compounds that stretch across the streets, islands, and waterfronts as part of a status symbol, part of a lifestyle upgrade, and part investment strategy. Story goes on to talk about a whole number of individuals who are amassing all of this property. They feel as if it's going to not only provide protection but exclusivity and give them some sort of ability, sort of, I don't want to curse, but some ability to stand out amongst the
Strut their
others,
stuff.
strut their stuff. So Daniel, this is something we see going on. This is some would say we're in the second gilded age, simply because the amount of wealth that's being created, whether it's coming from the internet, it's coming from technology, and or coming from AI now. And now these people are building and amassing land. And there's two kind of ways to think of it. One way is they're doing it because they want to show off what they have. The other way to sort of think about it is, are these people simply doing what everybody's done in Florida, in South Florida, since the 1920s Florida land boom? And basically, these are old people. They got nothing better to do with their money, so they're going ahead and they're investing in dirt, and they think somehow, some way in the future, it's going to create something special for them. So that would
So
be the way
Peter,
I would position it.
Peter, you see my shared screen right now, or am I just
Yes,
being
I
a
do.
crazy person? So
Nope, I see it.
everybody, Peter alluded to, well, didn't allude to. He mentioned the 1920s land boom. Well, what happened in the 1920s here in Miami? Well, what happened in the 1920s all across the U.S.? The end of the 1920s, you had the beginning of the Great Depression. Why was there a Great Depression? Well, there was a lot of reasons for the Great Depression, but part of the reason why everybody was over leveraged. We talk about the crypto market, Peter, and when your barber or Uber driver starts talking about Bitcoin, like, it's probably time for you to sell. Well, everybody was invested in the stock market because it became democratized in a sort of easy way to get access to the stock market. Well, where do people with money like to come? Well, they've always wanted to come to Miami. They've always wanted to come to Miami. Who the hell wants to be in Manhattan? And remember, back then, Manhattan was filthy. I mean, there was still coal, there was soot, there were still horses walking around with crap all over the place. Miami, you just took Flagler's Railroad all the way down. And then you got here, and well, where's everybody going to want to live? Well, there were no beaches over here, really. This was the mouth of a river. The beaches were over here on the barrier island. But how do we get to the barrier island? Well, let's build some bridges. So they built the bridge. They built the MacArthur. It doesn't look like the same way it looked back in the 20s. It's been renovated since. And then they built these islands. These islands are very unnatural looking because, well, they're unnatural. They're man-made. And then if you really zoom in here, you sort of see an outline here. You see that outline? And that, my friends, was supposed to be the next phase of this. There was supposed to be another causeway that went across here. But the big hurricane came in the mid-20s. Then the Depression happened, so it was like a double whammy, and that never got built. But the outlines here still remain. I remember when I was a little kid driving across the Julia Tuttle and seeing that and saying, what the hell is this? And this is before you could do any sort of internet sleuthing. You just had to take anybody's word for it or follow the rumor mill. But that was supposed to be. And the last anecdote I want to say about this is government cut, right, Peter? The port of Miami, this is all fake also,
Yep.
Dodge Island.
Man-made, fake, 100% fake.
Well, this unnatural looking cut here, the reason why it's called government's cut is because it is unnatural, because the government cut it. It's no secret. Fisher Island was South Point. It was the southernmost part of Miami Beach, and then they cut it, and then it became an island, and now it's an enclave to Miami, and I guess really the world's wealthiest and most awesome. It's got the super yacht marina. It's like a bigger version of Indian Creek. They have houses, they have condos, they have the marina, they have the club. I don't actually think you can become a member. There's no more equity memberships at the club anymore. You have to be an owner on Fisher Island, I believe.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that. Really? So I've
but
gotten to
those
that point because the longest time they couldn't hawk them to anybody, and then the
no.
pandemic came.
But right, and then the pandemic came, and Miami became super hot. But yeah, I mean, there's quite a few developments going on there. There the Rivage, is that what it's called? The Rivage, Fisher Island. They have the $30 million single family homes, the villas. There's 6 or 7 or 8 of them, I think, going up on Fisher Island right now. I don't know how they're doing with sales, but hey, if you want to live on Fisher Island, it is very nice. But in any event, and I don't want to detract from much more of this little tale of our man-made islands here in the Bay, but you can't make more waterfront real estate. That's something that Peter and I always say when the developers come in and they say this is the last piece of waterfront real estate. This is why you should buy this condo because you never get another chance. But 100 years ago, they were doing that. They were doing just that. They were sucking dirt up and they were plopping it very nicely, by the way. I love the shapes of these islands. I mean, they could have just built like a square island with a hard corner, but no, they made these like cool oblong shapes, very Art Deco before Art Deco was even a thing.
And Daniel, if you can you show the audience if they're watching? Can you show Brickell Key, which
Brickell
is a nice
Key.
triangle? Yeah, it's a nice triangle.
Wow, beautiful. I mean, look at, let me just get an over the head view of that. Yeah, look at that. I mean, listen, Miami does a few things well. We do condos, we make a fuck ton of them. Sorry for my language. We do cruises, we do a lot of those. And uh, parking garages. We make the prettiest parking garages. I'm going to pull one up for the gang. We make the prettiest parking garages on the planet. Why? Because we have so many freaking cars. I mean, look at this thing. Come on. Tell me that's not one of the coolest buildings you've ever seen. And it's a parking garage. And there's a condo on the top floor of that thing.
Yeah, I did consulting on that project when the developer was putting it around, and I've never seen a project that can throw off more cash and the guy could claim a primary residence up at the top where he lives. So the entire building is throwing off cash because he's got parking garage in the middle, he's got
He's
the
got an
high-end
event
retail on the
space.
bottom. Yep, he's got it all. And he had some townhouse space for townhouses just to the northeast of the site as well.
Yeah, you can sort of see it in this image up here, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
So Daniel, going back to these compounds, the thing is, yeah, you're amassing all this land that's man-made for the most part, and we have rising sea levels. We know what happened today in downtown Miami with just a little bit of rain, and that was actually existing land. Just imagine what happens when you get to this man-made land, especially a place like West Avenue in South Beach, which for the most part is man-made. It's all from the dredging. Everybody, if you're not aware of the bay at most points, what would you call it, Daniel? 6 to 8 feet deep. So a lot of
If
these
that.
islands that were created, they were created because it had to be dredged so people could have actually navigate through Biscayne Bay,
Sure.
which is what we're talking about. So that's how it all came about. So Daniel, if you're one of these billionaires and you're amassing all of this dirt, how much confidence do you have that what you're actually buying is going to be there, kind of going forward, and is it really worth it? Or do you simply are you too long in the tooth? You don't have enough time left, and you figure, screw it.
You know
What else am I going
what?
to spend the money on?
The latter. And even if you're not long in the tooth, you could be, one of these AI 35, 40-year-old billionaires. You know what? You buy what you want. You got the money. And you know what? If I had the money, I'd do the same. What the heck? It's nice. I like it. I want it. I can afford it. Is it going to be there in 100 years? I don't care. I don't know. Me, I probably won't. So, yeah, take it. Big money, big compounds. I'm buying it.
I'm buying the fact that it's going on. I'm selling the concept. I think it's a money loser. This is a typical out of towner, parachutes in, thinks they know better, and at the end of the
But
day, they'll probably get
I
their
mean,
ass handed to them.
there's no investment grade $100 million property for a residence,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Again, this is just an example of somebody from out of town trying to do something that doesn't necessarily make the most sense. And Ken Billions would be the perfect example when he took out Adrian Arsh, who owned not only her site, but then a famous site next door. I think it was the former home of
William Jennings
presidential candidate.
Bryan's.
Yeah. So he buys this
William Bryan
dirt.
Jennings. William Jennings Bryan.
Yeah. It's coupled, it's combined. And the only way he can build on the second lot is he's got to somehow get rid of this historical home. So he proposes that why don't we put it on a flatbed and truck it up to Overtown area in Biscayne Boulevard and right there
so
around
so
that
people can
Checkers.
have access to it. Of course. What
Yeah,
a
so
great
people can
idea.
actually see it. Yeah. So I don't know, out of towners don't know what's going on, come in, they get too excited, they put their cash in, they think we're the gateway to Latin America, we're going to be the capital of the financial world in the United States, which, by the way, Daniel, if I can remind you, Ken Griffin from Citadel,
Tick
he came out and
tock,
said
tick tock, tick
he's
tock.
breaking ground in Q3 of 2025. I did a piece beginning of the quarter saying it's never happening. So he's, what are we on, the 5th of September? He's got about 25 days to break ground. Otherwise, I will
They've
be
been
proven
drafting the
correct in my
press release
projection.
for a while. They want to make sure it's perfect, Peter.
They want to make sure it's perfect. Correct.
All right, you're selling it. On to the next one. The most dangerous game, hunting for international buyers, Peter. So we've talked a lot about this over the summer because we've been talking all summer. So anybody that's been in wherever people go during the summer while we're here working, we've been doing this show now. This is week 16, Peter. We're on week 16. We're here every Friday at 4 p.m. for all you boys and girls. And we've been talking a lot about international buyers and pre-construction in particular because Miami Association of Realtors came out with their first ever global whatever pre-construction sales report. Why they didn't have it before, that, well, Peter can tell you all about that. But international buyers peaked for condos, not for pre-construction condos, all condos peaked in 2018. So in 2018, you flip a coin, 1 in 2 chance, 50% chance that condo buyer was foreign. And a significant amount of those were Latin American buyers. Now you fast forward to 2024, and that number has dropped down to 10%. And that's for a few reasons that we've hypothesized, and I can talk about those in a second. But the Miami Association of Realtors comes out with their global report saying that 49% of pre-construction condos, because we sell a lot of those here, sold to international buyers. And in certain submarkets, 80 to close to 100% of those, the market, I think, that was really standout was downtown, the World Center area, which was 99% of those condos, pre-construction, sold to Latin American buyers. And now, because of, we recognize this reality, or now maybe it's more widely accepted and understood because the Miami Association of Realtors came out with it. Nothing against them. I'm just saying, why haven't you been promoting this data before? So all of these brokers and all of these condo developers are looking in the deepest, darkest corners of the world, down to Buenos Aires, to London, to Brazil, to Mexico, and anywhere else. Hell, you know what? I was in Colombia in March doing the same thing. Really, because you have all of these countries. We have economic issues here in the U.S., but they have economic problems too, and they see Miami, they see the appreciation of the real estate market here in Miami as it's been, and it's been quite good. It's been you can't deny it. Even Peter, my bear, Peter, my bear, the new condo resales. What do the numbers say there? Not bad.
Well, according to it's a survey. Understand what it is. It's a survey put out by a club. The club is called the Miami Association of Realtors. When you work with somebody and they represent you in a transaction, they tend to be a realtor. Understand that they have a license and then they join a club. I used to be a member of the club. I used to sit on the board of directors of the club, just to kind of lay it out there. So this is a sell-side organization, somewhere in the vicinity of 60,000 members. The reason I bring this up is there's an obvious slump and a slowdown in what's going on, and the best way to get people excited is to come out with these types of reports. You come out with this report, you can kind of beat the drum, you can get people moving forward, you can get them thinking about things. So what's happened is the Miami Association of Realtors, the state of Florida, the real estate industry, which, by the way, has not spoken out on any of the current immigration policies going on in the United States. They haven't come out and said, oh, there's an alligator Alcatraz located about 50 miles west of Brickell Avenue where potentially foreign buyers who are coming in, they step out of line. They could end up there. Now, I don't want to be outrageous. I'm not going to be crazy about it, but understand if you're coming in as a foreign national, you do run the risk that if you step out of line, some guy with a mask on might pick you up, and you might end out there. Now,
And it
what's the
doesn't
chance of
matter
it
if you're
happening?
buying a $500,000 condo or a $5 million or a $15 million condo. Really?
So that is a potential risk. So the association has been mum on it. They've been silent on it. Nobody said a thing about it. Why? Because they don't want to piss off whoever they don't want to piss off. So what they're doing now is they're going out and they're trying to sell Miami. They're trying to sell South Florida. They're trying to sell all of this pre-construction. Why? Pre-construction is very profitable. Generally speaking, a developer is going to make 30% profit margin. If they get in early, they make up to 50% profit margin. The brokers who are peddling the product, if they're in-house, they're making 2 points on that. And we're talking about pre-construction prices of 3,000, 4,000. Daniel, what did we hear? $5,000 a square foot. You're making 2 points on that internally. That's a good reason to get on a plane and go spread the message of whoever the particular developer is. The problem is so much of our foreign investment is coming from Latin America and the Caribbean. And because of who the immigration policy is targeted towards, and we all know what it is, it sort of raises the question, does the real estate industry that's selling this up, do they need to change? Instead of flying south, should they
They need
be
to
heading
find
over?
east.
Should they be going to the Caucasus countries? Should they be going to places in and around Eastern Europe? Should they be going even farther east for prospective buyers? We all know what goes on in areas like Sunny Isles Beach, stuff like that. So does the real estate industry down here, pre-construction, does it have to change? A lot of the people who are in place
What goes
peddling
on? What goes
product.
on in Sunny Isles? Don't say anything about Tarzan.
Well, Sunny Isles is notorious for being a destination for a lot of people come from Eastern Europe. It was one of the first areas once the Soviet Union broke up back in 1992, 1993. Some condo developers basically flew out. Related Group was one of them, and the other one was name is escaping me right now. I'll think of it at some point. They went out and they started peddling to the former Soviet Union countries, and they brought in some buyers. One thing led to another. We then had a whole movement from Brighton Beach, which is a big outpost up in New
In New
York
York.
City. Yeah. We even got a Tatiana's. Tatiana's Russian dance dinner club was opened up, and they brought a tiger. They used to keep a tiger on stage
They
while
get
the
the
performance.
tiger on stage.
They kept a live tiger on stage in a cage. I read an article about it. A buddy of mine wrote an article, and he asked them, "Why do you have this tiger on stage?" And they said, "Well, it looks good." There was no purpose for it. So, but this is kind of what we have. So I guess where I'm going with this is Miami and South Florida's real estate pre-construction market, are they going to need to pivot? And why would they need to pivot? Because maybe the people they're selling it to are no longer welcome, and maybe those people are no longer coming. And my last point before I sort of turn it over to you is Miami International Airport traffic. If you look at the last 20 years, it's been down 3 times. We are on track right now for it to be the fourth time. This would be the first time since the pandemic. We are decreasing Miami International Airport. The international passenger traffic, 1.2%. Coming into the year, it was expected to grow by 8.5%, which it had for the 2 prior years. Now, this was after the big bump after the pandemic and after people could sort of travel. So we were growing. All of a sudden, we're down 1.2%. If we continue on that pace, we could be losing about 2 million round trip passengers. Divide that by half, call it a million international passengers. And many of those international passengers, they come here, they fall in love with it, they know people, they decide, let me buy a place, they park their money, they buy pre-construction. This is what's potentially at risk. And instead, the Realtor Association is going out there talking about how international buyers are so important, but everyone's afraid to say, hey, listen, what the government's doing with immigration, that might kind of screw up our little hustle, which is selling product to
Well, it
foreign
sounds like you're
buyers.
saying it right now.
Well, I'm saying it, but nobody listens to me because I'm the bear and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And the pre-construction people tend to be much better looking than I am. I have a face for radio. They're more so equipped to be able to be convincing. And so I would just leave it at that.
You crack me up, Peter. Look, I mean, I'd be curious to know of the drop in round trip airline passenger traffic, which I think the number you said to me was 150,000 down.
150,000, yeah,
Is that year
150,000
over
through.
year?
That was through June. Yes, year over
That
year,
was
January through June, first half
so
of the year.
year over year. So if you correlate that with our cruise ship numbers that have been steadily growing since the pandemic, like they've just been killing it, knocking it out of the park. So what percentage of those international buyers, sorry, what percentage of those international travelers are cruise ship passengers, and which ones are just the normal people who used to be coming here who are no longer coming here?
My experience of riding cruises, and I'm speculating. This was back of the off the cuff. It's I'd say
It's
95% of cruise ship
domestics.
passengers are domestics. Now the staff is a hundred,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
90,
yeah.
ninety
But
percent
these aren't folks that are flying round trip in and out of Miami. They live on the ship and they stay on the ship, and I don't think they're traveling internationally in and out of Miami. Also, I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. But it just seems if the cruise ship industry is seeing such a growth, and we're seeing this lull in travel from the international set, what my question to you is, how important are those 150,000 people? Are every single one of them a candidate for a new condo here? Or are some
Well,
of them just
I
going on a cruise?
I don't know if the 150,000 or that didn't show up year over year is that
150,000 that just
significant?
didn't show.
Didn't show. But what is significant is typically when you book a flight, the longer, farther in advance, the cheaper it is, especially if you're traveling from abroad. So you're probably going to schedule stuff in anticipation. So I would tell you, I don't think we've experienced it yet because I think people probably pre-booked. They want to see how things are going on. Maybe they're canceling. Maybe they're doing whatever they're going to do. So this winter is really going to be sort of critical. Now there is some good news, or kind of good news. There was a lawsuit filed by the Miccosukee Indian tribe related to this alligator Alcatraz, which is a pop-up detention center located in the middle of the Everglades. And I can't
The
imagine
fact
what's
that
going
we're
on there
describing it
now.
as a pop up is crazy.
Yeah, well, that's effectively what it is. It's a pop-up. They have a bunch of tents. They put people in cages. They feed them. They do whatever they're going to do. But there was a judge that ruled against it. So we'll see
It's
if that
supposed to
actually
be
plays
getting
out.
dismantled like right now, right?
Supposed to be getting dismantled, but then supposedly there was some appeal. So we'll have to sort of see how it ultimately plays out. But that is not good for marketing. We have something in the state of Florida called Visit Florida. It is a pro Florida tourism arm, goes out there and spreads the word. They've done tremendous work. They've created this image of Florida in the minds of people that is just exceptional. We all have seen what goes on at Times Square in New York. Every time it's snowing, they like run ads at Times Square. There's all kind of palm trees and dolphins in the water and stuff like that.
You're so right.
So so you got all this money going to Visit Florida trying to promote this cause, and then once people get here, like I said, they fall in love with it. They say, "Why don't I buy it? I deserve it. I work hard." Blah 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 blah. And at the same time, you got an alligator Alcatraz for the time being. We'll see if it actually lasts. My message to the Realtor Association is: listen, if you really want to sell international product, come on out and start telling people that you are behind many of these would be prospective foreign buyers. How do you go into a marketplace and say, well, don't worry, it's not going to be you? If these people are going to have to make a commitment, and this commitment, especially on pre-construction, it's going to 3 to 5 year commitment. And, so there's a lot of reasons to say, let me wait until the project's online and maybe we have a better sense of where we're going. So I would just throw that out there. And or I would say if you're going to sell pre-construction, you need to start going towards the Caucasus countries. Start going east instead of south.
Let's go, Peter.
Dale.
All right. Are you a buy on the most dangerous game? It sounds like you are. We got to go hunting for him.
Yeah, no, I am a buy on having to go hunting, although I don't know that the current infrastructure is equipped to sell. Because think about it, if there's this big issue in the minds of people right now,
No,
they
I
shouldn't
think
be
I think
here.
Miami's sexiness supersedes.
You think so? So
Yeah.
so if you are somebody who's super sexy and you're peddling a condo and you go to a place where that person thinks that you're here illegally, are they going to sign a contract with you? I guess is sort of the question. Just because of stereotypes, just because of everything else, and this is the part that hasn't been explored, and I think it really does need to get explored because does the Miami appeal? Does it still work when you're selling to a group of people that basically don't want you here?
That's a good question. And if I was in those shoes, I would think my rational mind would say run for the hills.
And if you're a
But
developer, If you're a developer, what do? Do you maybe change the brokerages you hire to sell this product? Because all these brokerages have a certain book of business, a place they can parachute in, they can sell it, they can market it, whether it's Buenos Aires or it's Bogota, Colombia, or anywhere else. Do they have the right personnel now? Do you need to change the personnel? Does there need to be a shift towards
yeah,
selling to
maybe
other
they're
countries?
you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm available. All right, Peter, we got to move on. You're a buy on hunting. I'm a buy on hunting. I'm glad we could agree on something today. And And you know what else we're going to agree on? Because I feel like I know you. I know you, Peter. Marine Stadium shenanigans. We talked a little bit about the Marine Stadium last week, so we won't give you a history lesson today. But I'm going to read a little excerpt from Miami Herald article that was published. I've read it online, but 3 commissioners were needed for the meeting: Ralph Rosado and Damian Pardo, who, you know what, Damian, you've let me down since you got elected, but that's not what we're talking about today. Were the only 2 who made an appearance in the commission chambers Friday morning. Miguel Angel Gabella was out of town on a pre-planned trip. Spokesperson for Chairwoman Christine King told the Herald that she was feeling under the weather. Come on, what are you, 6? And then Joe Corio said he had a prior commitment related to a family matter, so they didn't have a quorum, so they couldn't vote on what they needed to vote for today. And what was today? It was to put the hiring of a certain company on the referendum to manage the Marine Stadium. And you know, full disclosure, the company in question is actually the same folks who run the Miami Beach Convention Center. And the gentleman who heads up this organization was just indicted yesterday, in fact. Or Art Noriega said he found out yesterday. Art Noriega is Miami city manager, said he found out yesterday that it was indicted for allegedly bribing an official in Texas regarding an arena deal. The gentleman also owns, I think, the Toronto Maple Leafs, an NHL team. I thought Canadians were all above board, but in any event, the vote didn't happen today. They're kicking the can once again. And Peter, I got to give you credit where credit is due. You called it. You said nothing was going to get done with the Marine Stadium, and lo and behold, it appears nothing is getting done with the Marine Stadium yet again. 8.8 acres on the bay, forever underutilized. What do you got to say about it?
Well, you know, when I read that story and I saw the headline about possible payoffs, you know, we always joke about people getting greased. But you know, it's kind of tongue in cheek when you say getting greased on here. And I would just remind you, and some people maybe don't know this. We were talking earlier about the Port of Miami, which by the way, I think they hired some consultant to come up with a branding name. They changed it from Port of Miami to Port Miami. So that
Yeah,
was definitely
it's
money.
like dropping the of Facebook. It's just
Yeah, it was
Facebook.
very, very, very well done. But the Port Miami, you may or may not know this. There used to be a guy called Carmen Lanetta. Carmen Lanetta was the port director. He got busted in a federal sting for payoffs, and they used to have the lunches where the feds were wiring people up and listening over at that what is it, Papa Luigi over in the Grove, right by Flanagan's.
Wait,
You
Paolo
know,
Luigi, the pizza place?
yeah, but you know where Happy Wine is? That used to
Yeah.
be Paulo Luigi. They used to be in there, and that was the hangout for Lanetta, who was the port director. He's now
No
since passed.
kidding.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where he
So he
hung
can't.
out.
Yeah, he's dead, so he's not going to be able to sue me. But basically, that's where everything went down. So anytime it comes to do with water, it comes to do with public land and people being able to wet their beaks to kind of make stuff happen. I would never underestimate how corrupt this community can be. Everybody's got their hand out. Everybody wants to sort of get a taste. You're paying for cronyism. And then in terms also, too, when you talk about potential bribery and alleged bribery, keep in mind that the current administration, when they came in, they signed an executive bill, if memory serves me correct, eliminating that law about U.S. companies being able to go abroad and actually pay
Foreign corrupt
bribes.
practice. They didn't eliminate it. They directed the DOJ to stop prosecuting. You're talking about FCPA, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act.
Correct. There you go. There you go. Yeah, so it's part of a general vibe. I understand you want to get business done, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to happen with Miami Marine Stadium. Why don't they sell it? Sell 49% of it. Put it out for a vote. Put it in someone else's hands. Nothing will get done. Just like nothing is going to get done with the Coconut Grove Playhouse, which, by the way, they tore down most of it. Daniel, as we were discussing, most of it's there except for the facade. Nothing ever gets done on this stuff. And if you can't build it during a boom time, what makes you think that somebody's going to come in during a downtime or a slowdown and spend money for this type of asset? To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we just need good community leadership. Or we need more philanthropists who just want to throw money at a problem. We need more Arshes. We need more Abbases. We need Frost.
Why don't
George
we have Ken
Perez.
Billions? Have
10
Ken
billion.
Billions.
Look, there is a void here for you, Kenny boy. Just step in and Fix some shit. I mean, you know what? You know what it is though. You know what it is? He read the story of Old Man Gusman, and he's like, I don't trust these fucking guys as far as I can throw them.
Or the
You know,
Crandon family, right, with the
look.
tennis.
He comes from the Windy City. They don't call it the Windy City because of the wind off the lake. They call it because all the politicians are so full of hot air. Ken Billions is no. He's no goody two shoes newbie to urban municipal shenanigans. If anything, our administrators are going up against somebody who really knows how it's done, and maybe they just don't speak English. I don't know. It would be very tough to be a philanthropist in this town because there's so much robbery. Look at I mean, I don't want to get all political because we're talking about the Marine Stadium, but it was in the Herald today. The A3 Foundation, the foundation that is headed up by Art Noriega's chief of staff. You know, we're in a $402 million deficit and we're blowing money on some random charity. Well, we're not anymore because they got caught, but that's the one guy who got caught, right? This is the one instance where it's like, got you red-handed. You're lucky you're not going to jail, by the way. I think they need to put more of these guys in jail instead of just slapping them on the wrist.
And
So,
typically, but to your point, I said it in a previous podcast. You need a good recession because once the recession hits, it's the Warren Buffett quote about you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. That's what happens when you have a recession
I
hit.
hadn't heard that quote before. That's great.
Yeah, because once the recession hits or once a slowdown occurs, all of a sudden people are starting to count their pennies, and as they count their pennies, they start to figure this stuff out. So that's why you need a regular recession,
Right. They
in
start
my
looking at
opinion.
their balance sheet they
Yeah,
look
they
at their
have to.
credit card statement for the first time in 6 months.
And they realize that they've been paying for whatever app that their kid signed up for how many months ago, and they never even use it. Yeah, so that's why you need a cleanup. But listen, if you can't do the Marine Stadium when the economy is humming, and you had Ultra there for a short period of time, when are you going to do it? You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's not a priority, and I think more than anything, and I really try to keep my thumb on the pulse of what's going on at City Hall. This is a real kick in the nuts to Francis Suarez. If this speaks to anything, it speaks to the relationship between Suarez and the commissioners. Because if they had a quorum today, if Christine King didn't have so much of a tummy ache, she would have had to show up. She would have shown up, and they would have had to vote on this. And Suarez has talked about this for years, how the Marine Stadium, it's kind of like his calling card that he could have gotten this done, but it doesn't look like he's going to get this done before his term's up. And if the courts have their way, which God, I hope they have their way, Suarez is out. He's not going to be mayor next year. And by
Well,
the way,
the sun
anybody that's
is.
watching, well, we're talking about Francis. We're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Mayor
yeah,
Francis Suarez.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly.
Xavier Suarez is not getting reelected. Joe Carroll is not going to get elected mayor. I don't know who I'd vote for. Shit, I don't even live in City, Miami. I don't get a vote, but I do like watching the show.
It is a fun show.
It is a circus. It is absolutely a circus. Marine Stadium shenanigans. I'm buying on the shenanigans. There are more shenanigans than I don't even have a word for it. You've left me speechless with these shenanigans.
This is a pound a table buy on Miami
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
I can't. I. There needs to be a journalist. There needs to be a gadfly. We need a dog with a bone. Pull on that thread, guys. Anybody at the Herald, New Times. I still read
Jim
you.
DeFeeti. Jim DeFeeti's the one. Jim,
DeFeeti?
look into it. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Former New Times reporter, former Miami Herald columnist, and now over at CBS4.
So wrapping up for today, Little Haiti, or whatever developers want to call it. Folks, Little Haiti, and I'm going to pull it up here. We're working with a new software now, so it's really easy to share the old screen. But Little Haiti is a district, and it's up over here. If everybody can see my screen, wow! If you go here to Google, you got Little Haiti here, and then Little River on top of it. This whole area is supposed to be called Little Haiti, guys. Little River is an invention, right? And Peter, you're acquainted with this area. Your wife is Haitian, no?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so Little Haiti is an old neighborhood, much like Coconut Grove, old Miami neighborhood, and historic black neighborhood, and it's bordered up by the commuter rail. And this is really important because of rapid transit zoning in the county, and now with the new TS&D ordinance from the city, if we have fixed rail, we can just shove stuff in there. Why do we want to shove stuff in there? Because if we allow developers to come to the negotiating table with Live Local, they can build as dense as they want, regardless of public transit or fixed rail. All they have to do is allocate 40% of the units to come to be for workforce housing, which means about $87,000 for a single payer. I think it's about that. But if you come over here and you zoom in, you'll say, Daniel, there are no fixed rail stations along here. Well, these projects are going to be so insanely profitable. The developers are like, no, guys, we're going to build the station. So Michael Swerdlow Group, they are building a tri-rail station here. I think it's going to cost them, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars. And I think it's great. You know what? You can build high density in my book if you're willing to contribute something like that to the community. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, Peter, as terms of developer contributions to the community, like Alan Morris, Phillips in a Park, or the Lincoln Road, the end of Lincoln Road, the east end of Lincoln Road that they're rehabbing, or what else? What about the Kaseya Center, the park along the base, along the bay at the Kaseya Center? So these are all things that it's a park. Go plant a tree. Go put some grass. Put a dog park. No. The fixed rail thing, you gotta put the train station. The train either stops at a station or it doesn't. It's binary. So I think a contribution like this, you know what? You build the train station, you get to do whatever the hell you want. But that's just Daniel.
Boy, a lot to sort of get in here. First and foremost, the most important reason we're talking about this is Churchill's. This
You wanted to talk about Churchill's. I know. I hijacked your thing with Churchill's.
This dive shithole punk bar.
You don't want to touch anything in this freaking place.
You don't want to touch anything. You don't. I mean, the place it's legendary in the punk music scene. It's I'd say most of the musicians, most of the acts that ever performed there, you could probably listen to maybe about 5 minutes of it, 10 minutes for it, where you just kind of walked out. But they invited everybody, and as a result, they would also get the real high end, well, not high end, but well known types of bands going in there. So during the pandemic, it actually shut. The original owner dumped it, sold it off. He was getting long in the tooth. He was getting a little bit old, sold it off to another group. Another group leased it out. Pandemic hits, thing goes sideways. It shuts down, doesn't reopen. It's opening tonight.
Tonight.
Churchill's is back. A new documentary just came out about it, about Churchill's and the scene and the vibe around it. Remember, keep in mind, this opened up in the 70s or so, if memory serves me correct, by a British guy. He set it up. And this, what's now called Little Haiti, at one time was called Lemon City. Lemon City, there was lemon plantations, there was citrus, there was whatever. It was called Lemon City. Then when you had the situation with, what do they call them, Haitian, a whole variety of Haitians were coming in, the area started to morph and started to change. You saw white flight. You had people bailing. The Haitian community kind of set up shop there. And what people came to realize with rising sea levels and other stuff is that this is one of the highest points in and around Miami. So developers have moved in there. It's just west of the train tracks, like Daniel mentioned. You got easy access to Interstate 95. You also have established single-family communities like Morningside, located just to the east. So as we start to fill in all of these empty spaces in and around Miami, Little Haiti or Lemon City, depending on who you are, this has become a real popular area. Why? Because the dirt can be acquired. You had a lot of 1- and 2-story sites. Wasn't much for the dirt, and you could assemble them. In the representatives and government side who were there, they wanted new investment coming into that area. Why? Part of it, they wanted campaign contributions. The other part of it is they wanted all of the indirect and direct services that came about. So there's been this big push to kind of go in this area. If you go to Little Haiti today, I tell you, you're probably more likely to see people who aren't Haitian than actually are Haitian. If you look at the Caribbean marketplace, which was
Well, it's like
built, it's designed.
little Bahamas and Coconut Grove.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100% the same thing. But you look at this Caribbean marketplace. There's talk about whether or not they're actually going to keep it. There's been cost issues associated with it. It's running into all kind of construction issues. The group that was in charge of running it, they were on the radio on WLRN, which is the NPR affiliate down here. While there's still money, WLRN is still around, but they were talking about how the people running it were basically getting nixed out in terms of funding. So I'm not going to say there's a stigma, but some people don't want the little Haiti name identified for that area. They want to revert back to Lemon City, or they want to change it to something new. So a brand new development's going in there, supposedly called Magic City. And the idea is, let's go ahead and let's link it up with a train, Daniel. I've heard that. Everybody's heard that. The problem is the state of Florida is slowing down funding, and the Tri-Rail, which is the public
Well,
regional
my
transportation.
understanding is that they're gonna part of that deal is that they have the part of the Miami Magic City Innovation District deal is that the developer had to build the train station. My
Well,
understanding.
now they might have to build a train station, but if you look at what's going on with Tri-Rail, so first of all, we got two rails. We got one which is public, and that's called Tri-Rail. It goes all three counties, and we got a private sector one called Brightside, run by a hedge fund, or owned by a hedge fund and bonded out and stuff like that. So basically, the public sector one is dependent upon state of Florida contributions. State of Florida has come out and said that they don't know if they're going to be funding it going forward. The director of Tri-Rail has said there's about a 2-year lifespan shelf life left based on current funding that's in place. And after that, they don't know what's going to happen. So if Tri-Rail disappears, you now have to convince Brightline, which is the private sector, to suddenly make a stop there. Right now, they go from Miami, downtown Miami, to Aventura, to Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
to Boca Raton, to West Palm, and they end up in Orlando if you get on that particular leg. So they might build a train station, but there might not actually be a train to service it, simply because of the moves going on Tallahassee, if you believe the press reports that are coming out related to Tri-Rail.
That's interesting. I've never taken the Brightline. Have you?
I've taken it once. It is fantastic. It is expensive, probably about 4 to 5 times more than getting on the Tri-Rail, which is the regional. It makes a bunch of different stops.
But
And
how
I'd
much
say in
faster
terms
is
of,
it?
I got to Boca in roughly about 30 minutes. If I would have taken the Tri-Rail, it probably would have taken about an hour and 15 minutes or so.
So
At least an hour, probably
that's
double.
pretty slick. My question is there, and I don't know why they don't do this. I mean, I have no reason to commute to Orlando, but the reason why it takes so long to get to Orlando is because they got to make these stops. Like you got to train, and it gains
Yep.
momentum, and then it's got to slow down before it gets to the station, and so it's got to make these progressive stops: Aventura, Fort Lauderdale. Where else is it?
Boca,
Boca,
West
Palm
Palm.
Beach, West Palm.
Yep.
But why isn't it that the first train in the morning, when there's no other train traffic going on, the 6 a.m. train, why don't they just do an express train from Miami to Orlando? How long would that take? 2 hours? Just a like that's a use case for that train. But otherwise, like, dude, I'm just getting in my car and driving to Orlando if I gotta go to Orlando. Because then what does it do? It drops you off at the Orlando International Airport. You need a car. Orlando's no more of a walking city than Miami is. You
Yeah,
gotta
I've
rent.
tried to make Orlando a walking city because I don't have a car, and
It's
yeah,
not
it can
doable.
be challenging. But yeah, you're definitely gonna get your steps in. That's for sure. And it might not be walkable in terms of where you're walking. Yeah, it takes an effort. A car is much easier in Orlando.
Right.
100%.
So with that, it's like, well, I might as well drive. And plus the expense, right? What's a round trip ticket in Brightline to Orlando? 120 bucks?
I think they do specials where it's $40 each way, but I don't know if
Okay,
that's
so
off
80
season or
bucks.
what. Yeah,
All
roughly.
right, so that's roughly probably what I'm spending in gas.
Plus you got the tolls of the turnpike.
Okay, so all in 80 bucks and I got my car.
Yeah, and you got your car. Well, but yeah, no question about that. But going back to this area now, keep in mind when a market is humming. This is what I've seen. People go to areas they don't want to be into, but they rationalize it. Let's go in this area because it's cheaper. We can afford it. Ideally, when the market is doing what the normal market, you're going to be able to buy where you want. When the market's out of control, you go into an area that you don't necessarily want, but you settle for it because you want to get in because you're afraid it's going to pass you by and this and that. So I would argue Little Haiti and increasingly Little River, which is the next play. This is the area immediately north of Little Haiti. These areas have become popular because people are anticipating. Why? Because we haven't had a correction since the Great Recession. So we've been going straight up for 14 years. We've had a little bit of pullback. We haven't had any kind of correction. So I would almost argue these two areas are inflated. And a lot of this development that is proposed, a lot of it that's talked about, I don't actually know if it gets over the finish line if we have any kind of shakeout. Now, we did mention interest rates are coming down. Mortgage rates could go from a 7 handle today, 7%, down to 5%. That might spur some of this new development. But all of these projects have been announced, like this Magic City. Dude, that thing was announced 5 years ago. We went through this whole boom. It didn't get built. It's still not built.
Well,
Square Lobe may or
I gotta give credit where credit is due. You know, the Herald likes to when people are doing naughty things, nobody's written anything about this. So either they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, or they have really good PR guys who are closing the lid on whatever they are doing. Because I don't hear anything about this district. I go to it. I play paddle. If anybody plays paddle at Ultra, um, and there's a, like, I think Magic City Brewing. There's a cool brewery up there. There's all these sort of artsy fartsy. There's a live music space. Zay Zay is there. So it's kind of cool. And then if you go further north into Little River, because remember, my Magic City Innovation, I would say, is on like the southeast corner of this district. And
yeah, I want to
then,
say like 62nd, like
yeah, right,
MLK.
62nd,
Yep,
because there's two one-way streets going in and out
yep,
of it, right?
yep.
So let me pull this up here. So there's two one-way streets coming in and out of it, right here, right? So that's what we're looking at. Um, you got the soccer field. Here's the commuter line that's going up here, right? And then that's like the southeast corner of it. And then then the commuter line turns, right? So the bright lane, bright
Bright line. Yep.
bright line, it continues northbound, whereas the tri-rail actually turns west,
At
right?
71st. Yep.
At
Yep.
71st. And this here up against 95. So you see this Victory Homes recreation area all the way to just about, I don't know how far east it goes, but to about Miami Avenue. That's the extent of the Swerdlow development. The Swerdlow development is massive. It's something like 4,000 units, retail. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar project. No shit. But if you keep on going eastward from there, just at the turn of the train, then you get is what they're calling that Little River district. And I don't really know where the river is. The river is actually, closer to Belmead over here. But the Little River district right here. And then remember, if you go a little further north, we go into El Portal. We get into where Adam Newman bought that 17-acre tract for 70 some odd $1 million, that trailer park right over here. And then you keep on going north and you get to Miami Shores. And that's North Miami, right? Or the northern part before you get to North Miami and North Miami Beach and Aventura and yada yada. But here at the train tracks on 71st, 72nd Street, there's this warehouse district. And the hottest ticket in town, I think we talked about this a little bit last week. The hottest ticket in town, the hardest restaurant reservation to get in town, is a place called Sonny's Steakhouse. And I laugh because even I'm old enough to remember the iteration, the first sort of foray into Wynwood as a restaurateur, and that was Joey Goldman, Tony Goldman's son. And that was a hot spot. And then Wynwood sort of built its way around Joey's. I think it's on 24th and 2nd Avenue, right? 24th, 23rd,
Yep.
and 2nd Avenue. And then Panther Coffee opened, and then the Coyo Taco opened, and then you had Wynwood Walls, which once upon a time you could actually walk into without paying. You have to pay like $10 to walk into there now, or whatever it is.
And you have to make a reservation too, right?
No
Don't they have?
shit.
You have to,
Ah,
yeah, yeah,
to go
yeah,
see
yeah.
the graffiti, I mean murals, whatever. So
Yep.
now in this Little River district, the Joey's of 2025 is in fact called Sonny's. And between you and I think it's a much better restaurant than Joey's ever was. Joey's was Italian. This is like a steakhouse. You get the martinis. It's in this warehouse district. It's massive. It's beautiful. They must have spent at least $10 million building this place out. No shit. I mean, it's really nice. I don't know how many covers a night they do, but it's constantly booked But man,
Wow.
you got to sell a lot of steak and martinis to recoup $10 million plus in a restaurant build out. I don't
In
care
Little
what you're paying
River.
for rent. And Little River, um, yeah, it's right over here ish. It's in here.
Wow.
Oh, there it is.
So,
Sunny Steakhouse. This whole
all right. So
thing.
let's juxtapose that to the places I go to. I go to
You go
B&M Market where you can get roti goat.
Churchill's.
Well, Churchill's, yeah, but in terms of restaurants, I go to B&M Market. If you've never been, it's a dry good place run by a Guyanese couple. They make the rotis on the spot. You can get an all veg for
Oh,
$7, or if
this
you
is the
want
roadie
protein.
place you've been telling me about.
Yeah, yeah, this is a good place. Got put on the map because Michelle Bernstein, the famous chef down here, she took
Cafe La
Anthony
Trova.
Bourdain. Yeah, yeah, she took Anthony Bourdain in there for Guyanese roti in Miami. So that's a good little place, still around, still a little shithole. You'll love it. They sell all the dry goods. And then another place that I like to go up there, it's a chicken joint, a Haitian chicken joint called Peck's. It used to be you would get like, I don't know, 6 pieces of chicken for like $3
Hmm.
and fries on there. Yeah, so a little takeaway place again, dry good place. So that's kind of the places I go to. That's what I'm accustomed to. So when you're telling me
I
Sonny's is
was a
this
big
expensive,
Hardaway's House of Wings guy.
oh yeah, which is another one that's yeah, yeah, very good. But in terms of this little area, that's what it kind of used to be. But apparently, Sonny's is where it's going. What would you say the typical tab is in Sonny's? Have you gone yet, or you've just heard?
Yeah. We're boozing?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, to eat, to eat.
No booze? Well, my index includes booze, Peter. My index always includes booze. Um, just to eat,
50 bucks, 100
75,
bucks.
$80 a person.
Okay, 80 bucks a person. Yeah, yeah.
80
So
bucks a person, no
shows you the
booze.
transition. Yeah, you go
Yeah.
into the Citadel, which is there. It's a little pop up. It's like a food hall, if you
Yeah, it's
will.
$10 beers.
$10 beers, a burger's like 15, 20
Yeah.
bucks, whatever the case may be. So that place is going through a metamorphosis. But the question is, Daniel, does it hold? If all of this product,
Well,
which has been entitled while the market was going up, is all of this stuff going to stand firm, or is Churchill's return symbolize that this crazy boom boom time is over, and now they're bringing back a shithole bar, which is known for people who have a lot of them have no talent who are singing, but the mic is open to anybody. Cheap beers and grimy and
well,
gritty
what's
and
okay? Am I gonna have to ask you next week what's a beer cost at Churchill's? Because I know you're going.
dude, I was there the last night. I was there the last night. I always go to a place the last night to sort of, just bless it on its way out. So yeah, no, Churchill's. I spent plenty of nights in Churchill's, and I can tell you, it was a shithole. It was a dive,
So
so I loved it.
what's a beer in 2025 gonna cost at Churchill's?
I hope they don't pull what the Kush Boys did with Tobacco Road. You know how Tobacco Road shut down
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they
yeah,
brought it
yeah,
back?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you go into Tobacco Road and Kush, you can't get a light beer. Light beer is like white trash beer, whatever. I like it because I can drink more of them. If I drink like an
PBR.
IPA,
You're talking about a
yeah,
PBR.
yeah, yeah. But a beer at I
Pabst
don't know
Blue
how much
Ribbon,
to.
by the way, you know why it's called Pabst Blue Ribbon? Because it won first prize in something at one point,
Interesting,
right?
interesting. I
PBR.
didn't know that. But beer should be $3-4. It should be like Bar Nancy's in Little Havana, three four
Ah, I
bucks for
love Bar
for a beer.
Nancy's. I was over there a few weeks ago. They had, I shit you not, like a death metal band in there.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Like
wide open too.
with the face paint and the whole, it was great. It was awesome.
They bring in Neil Lara. Have you ever seen Neil Lara over there?
No.
He was a famous musician, or is a famous musician, during the '90s before the electronic thing took off in South Florida. Used to have bars on the beach, and in the mainland where people there was like Stephen Talkhouse. There used to be over in the Design District. There was a place where live performances went on, and Nell Lar was catching on. He signed a big contract, and he everything was going on, and everybody suddenly switched to lollipops, glow sticks, and electronic music. So it's like this whole scene died.
Oxygen, and Coconut Grove.
Yeah, exactly. Club space and that whole type of thing. But he performs at Bar Nancy, so that's my recommendation to people. If you want to see somewhat Miami used to be like in the '90s in terms of rock, Neil Lara performs at Bar Nancy. But going back to Churchill's. So does Churchill's represent? What does it represent given the quality of it? A punk bar in a neighborhood that no longer has Haitians for the most part. Many of them have all sold out. They've gone elsewhere. They've gone to North Miami Beach. They've gone Broward County. They've gone elsewhere. The Caribbean marketplace is in trouble potentially because the city doesn't want to fund it, doesn't have the money to fund it. and many of the investors who've come in, they are not who you would think of when you talk about little Haiti. So what does Churchill's represent? Does this represent the end of the craziness, or is this simply what would you say it represents?
Well, first off, I I think in order to make an objective view on this, we just have to go. So one, market research. Peter and Daniel go do market research. We might have to go live from Churchill's just so everybody can sort of partake in our.
Nobody will be able to hear. You'll have to be standing across the street where they keep the 2-story bus parked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got little microphones. And what does this mean? I think all in, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. What does it bode for the neighborhood?
what is it for the neighborhood? Does this return back to normalcy? Meaning that this boom, everything that was announced that hasn't got built yet thus far, does that mean it's all going to go by the wayside and we're going back to normalcy, or is this
Well,
simply
who's the money behind Churchill's? Who's behind this resurgence?
that part I haven't seen or read about? The person who took out, memory serves me correct, person who took out the founder, let's call him Old Man Churchill. It wasn't, but the guy's name isn't
Because
Churchill. Let's say
Churchill's
Old
named
Man.
after old man Winston Churchill, is it not?
Correct. So let's
He
say
was
the
a
Brit or
Dominican
the
guy who couldn't name it after himself. He had to have a worldly name.
correct. So when the originator sold, he sold it to a real estate developer. Real estate developer was going to sit on it, and in the meantime, until it was ripe and ready to go, real estate developer leased it out to guys I think who were working there or somehow tied to the origins of the project. And then the pandemic hit. And then from what I read, there might have been some reason that real estate developer was forced to sell it or was doing something. Financial pressures, it wasn't generating any rent, whatever the case may be. I'm not, I don't know enough about it, but now it's returning. And like I said, a documentary came out about a month or two ago about Churchill's and what it was and stuff like that. So I don't know if this is a pop up, short term, temporary. Remember Will Call over by the Kaseya Center when it used to be called American Airlines Arena, which was a 24/7 type of place or open till 5
Will
a.m. About
call.
yeah, it was about 7th and Northeast First or so, a block off of Biscayne Boulevard. Yeah, that was a place they signed a month-to-month lease, or they didn't sign, but they had a month-to-month lease, and they would keep operating until the developer was ready to pull the trigger. So I don't know if maybe that's what's going on here, or if maybe it was sold to somebody else. I mean, pure speculation.
Let's
But to
see
me,
here.
you know,
54th and what's the cross street for Churchill's?
it's going to be, I think it's second,
55th.
55th.
Northeast
Okay.
2nd, Northeast
Yep.
2nd, and Northeast 55th Street.
Yep.
We're going to do some
Yep.
internet
Block up.
sleuthing. Northeast 2nd. No, that's Miami Avenue. Northeast
Yeah. See if there was
2nd.
a transaction.
I'm looking. Stop bickering me. Well, the LLC. God, you can't make this shit up. The LLC. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up for the gang.
Nice.
Um,
Please.
the LLC is Dive Bar 215 LLC.
Nice.
I love it.
I'd say that's a new owner.
For sale under duress 2024.
See, that's what I was saying. They didn't have any revenue coming in. They couldn't rent it.
Interesting. Oh, I always thought that the parcel behind it was part of it.
Well, the part to the east, that's where the old man, the originator, that's where he used to live.
No, but
He actually lived on site.
so there's like little lofts. I think there's apartments you can rent in this building.
Yeah, that's where they had the record label. The record label is there.
Yeah, there was a record label there on the north end of the building. It's been owned by
Correct.
Kumo Family Limited for 1,000 years.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, all things considered, it's a small bar. It's 4,000 square feet on a 10,000 square foot corner lot.
Legendary though in the music circles, especially the punk circles. Legendary type of place. That anybody coming in and around, you all had to go through there. Kind of like the corner was before 11 turned into something.
Oh,
You remember the corner?
The corner used to be cool. Great paninis.
Yeah, yeah. So the corner was like it was like one of these places you just had to go. If you were in town and you kind of knew, you kind of had to go. That's what Churchill's was. I mean, the music it was hit or miss. It was mostly miss. Sometimes it was hit. But you could go in there and in the mornings you could watch soccer or football, depending where you come from. You could always
Football.
drink. Yep. So so
Oh,
we'll
you
have to
like it
see.
because they played cricket.
They wouldn't really play the cricket on the telly, as they say, or on the television. But a fun place. Definitely got to go. But to me, if in fact it's the originals, property sold in distress. Remember, pandemic hit it. Apparently, what we're talking about. To me, it might maybe symbolize we're going back to normalcy, and this whole run and this chaos and this speculation that bit everything up. Maybe it's over. Maybe it was a lot of pizzazz and
This is
but
the pivotal moment right now. Churchill opening back up.
like Andiamo's closing again. It's an end of an era.
I
Churchill's
think you
coming
have,
back.
by the way, I think everybody you have until the end of September. So what's going to happen? Ken Griffin breaks ground or Andiamo Pizza says ciao? All right, Peter,
Exactly.
buy, sell, hold, little Haiti or whatever developers want to call it. I'm bullish on the district. I don't know if developers are bullish on the name, but
No,
it'll
they do
always
not
be little
like the
Haiti
name.
to me.
Yeah, no, I'm a sell on it. I think this was land speculation. I think this was entitlement plays. I think these projects eventually come around, but I think it's next cycle. I don't think it's
No,
happening this cycle.
I'm a buy. I think especially all the workforce housing component. We talked a lot about Sunny's and Churchill's and the little warehouse district where they're putting the shishi expensive pizza restaurants. But there's more to it than that. I think there's the commuter stations. I really, call me an idealist. I'd like to think that the Magic City Innovation District will actually be an innovation district. Um, and I'm excited to see what the Swordlow boys do with their tri-rail station and their workforce housing development.
Oh,
So I'm a buy.
for the record, for disclosure, I did some consulting with Neil Fairman, who's involved with that Magic City project. I have nothing to do with the Magic City, but I have done consulting just to put that on the record related to that. No, I'm a sell. I'm a sell. These are investments
That's what
they'll
we're
start
here for, guys. Civil discourse.
and good tips on cheap beer and cheap restaurants. Remember, B&M Market and Pax Supermarket, dry goods where you get the chicken as well as Churchill's now. And I will report back to you how much a beer costs and whether or not you can walk in the bathroom and how you feel
Not
because
get
that's how
sticky
you
hands.
that's how you gauge a dive bar is how uncomfortable you are in the bathroom.
That's it? Really? That's your index?
Well, it's kind of like what they say in India. When you go to India, what they tell you is the only thing you touch is yourself. So when you go into a dive bar and you go into the bathroom, don't touch anything but yourself. Uh, uh, for what it's worth, being
All
sarcastic,
right.
obviously.
All right, gang. We'll leave you at that. Thanks for tuning in. And if you stuck with us the whole time, we usually don't talk this much, but I'm going on a trip next week. And so Peter and I will have to be recording our next couple of shows. But I hope you do stick with us. We will have it uploaded on time, 4 p.m. local time, Eastern time, Friday. And we'll see you all out there next time, folks. Thanks again. And Peter, any last words before you go off to Churchill's?
Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thanks.